out to be a pretty damn good football game.
I didn't watch hardly any of that game.
What's that?
I didn't hardly watch any of that game. I was focusing on Fitzmagic lighting up the sky with 6 interceptions. That was my focus at 4 o'clock.
The Bucs game was not a well-played football game by any means. It was actually very sloppy. Just a lot of mental errors on both sides, play calling in question. But, this is another one that the Rams, I took the Rams plus the 4.5 here, and I'm not trying to do a victory lap because I took the Rams and I didn't win shit all weekend, but I did like the Rams here just because this is one of those games that when you're handicapping in the NFL, you have to start taking the dog, yes, and even the dog on the road against what you presume to be mediocre teams. Mediocre teams don't win the games they're supposed to win, a la the Buccaneers at home. They are a very average football team. They don't win what they're supposed to win. So
I don't know. It might be a reach to call them average. I don't even know if they're that.
Well, I mean, mediocre to me is just right down the middle, and right down the middle in the NFL isn't even 8-8. Right down the middle is like 6-10, 7-9. It's not a mathematical right down the middle. It's more of a just because the 8-9 or 8-8, 9-7 teams aren't not only are they above average, they can actually make the playoffs.
You know where I'm kicking myself, where I missed the entire boat. Writing was on the wall, and I thought about this before I made my pick on Sunday. And I'm kicking myself about 11 o'clock Sunday night. How in the fuck did I miss that dead giveaway, which was Dallas minus 6.5 against the Chicago Bears?
Yeah. Well, you know what? We both called it. We both picked the game right, but just didn't play it. And that was a nice play.
I listened to the voice in my head. I almost pulled the trigger on that game, but the voice in my head said, "You're really good. You trust the Dallas Cowboys?" It's like, yeah.
Yeah,
I know, but it was a dead giveaway. More I look into it, it was there. It was there to be had, and I missed the vote.
This game though was a lot like the current presidential election. It was never Dallas, never Chicago. You can't fall for both of them. Unfortunately, for the sake of our country politically, there is no Dallas Cowboy in this mix. Dallas actually is not a bad football team all around. I think Dak Prescott is doing just enough, but the Bears suck. They're just
I think you say he's doing just enough, but I watched this kid making plays with his legs, his arm.
Sure.
I mean, I think he's doing a hell of a job.
He is. He's got a nice running game. But I guess that my lack of cheer for Dak Prescott has a lot to do with the fact that he did it against the Bears. But he's winning games where he's able to win games. So
I saw him do it against the Redskins. I mean, even that game against the Giants. I mean, he wasn't the reason they lost. So I mean, he's doing to be thrown in there as a rookie. I think he's doing a hell of a job for being he's a rookie. I'm grading him on a scale of being a rookie.
Yeah, I know, and no doubt about it. So. And I don't disagree. You're right. We missed a couple other good ones. That 7-point trap in Green Bay was an ugly one. Everybody would assume the Packers win that game. Well, not everybody, and who would assume, but everybody thought, you and I in our circles discussed Green Bay beating them by 15 points.
I thought so.
Yeah.
And that's in reality, that looked great. That looked like roses going through the entire game. And I happened to walk into the other room where that game was on, and it was, what was it, 31-24?
Yeah.
Yeah, 31, something like
34-27.
Yeah, you're right, 34-27. Okay, 34. I look at that and I said, how the hell did that happen? Wasn't it about 31-7 at one point?
Yeah. So there's a push on either side of that 7-point number, but that's where, as a player, you've got to start acclimating yourself to playing the number as opposed to playing the actual game. The number almost means more than the matchup. It's so hard to believe the day before kickoff. It's just so hard to buy into that. But there's more games that end up that way than not. Denver's a 3.5-point favorite on the road against. I take that back. Denver's a 3.5-point dog on the road against Cincinnati. I took Denver. You took the Bengals. That's another game where that 3.5 points just sticks out and says, well, we think Denver's going to probably win this game. And to me, that was the trap of the week, was Denver-Cincinnati. Well, that one in the trap that I fell in, which was Jacksonville-Baltimore. But
Jacksonville had that game. It's actually a game I hate the word should have. Should have means nothing. You didn't do it. But
sure.
That's a game Jacksonville should have closed out. That's a game they should have won. They had every opportunity. That turnover, Joe Flacco, I did watch a lot of that game. Joe Flacco threw an interception with, I believe, close to 2 minutes left. Jacksonville, I think then Jacksonville in return turns the ball over.
It passes. Yeah. Sloppy as hell for the last 7 minutes.
Mm-hmm. And that's a game, if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, you're kicking yourself because that game was meant for you. That was all there for you to win.
Oh, sure. And that was the one they had to win at home. Just bad move all around. Now they actually have a home game coming up next in London against a division opponent in the Indianapolis Colts. That's a home game for Jacksonville. Let me tell you by personal affiliation with the Oakland Raiders, when they went to Miami a few years ago and they were the home team in Oakland, they got blown the F out, and they were a bad football team. But that's just so difficult for a team that's 0-3 to travel to London and try to win a football game and lose a home game. Dear NFL, dear Roger Goodell, stop with this shit. Mexico City's not a big deal. It's not that far. It's not that big of a deal to go to Mexico City.
No, and the Brits, from what I understand and everything I gather, the Brits are very happy with their favorite sport, which is soccer.
Yeah, they love football over there, and they love American football as well, and that's great. But God, it's just brutal on these NFL teams. It's just brutal to travel. It's unfortunate that the NFL Europe years ago never took off the way they wanted it to. I can't recall how many seasons they survived, but it just didn't do that well.
Yeah, I mean, did you ever watch one of those games?
Yeah.
Go watch one of those games. You'll see why it didn't survive.
Yeah, it was just second-tier football, and it was guys who can't make NFL rosters.
Although I gotta say, man, I do miss sometimes the old XFL days with Tommy the Gun Maddox getting his shine, and who would ever forget Rod Smart, a.k.a. He Hate Me?
Yeah, those were tough games to watch too, man. I couldn't give a damn about that stuff either. I tried.
Oh, it was awful, but I really think He Hate Me was the greatest. It was the greatest alias / nickname in maybe sports history.
It was right on the back of his jersey. It was almost as good as World Be Free.
Or are you thinking Meta World Peace, Ron Artest?
No, sir. I'm thinking World Be Free because Ron Artest didn't invent that. That World Be Free was in the mid-'80s, I believe. I can't think of what his real name was, but he changed his name to World Be Free many, many a moon ago before your time.
All right.
Ron Artest just thought he was innovative. He's a copycat. So going forward, man, there was one other game I wanted to mention. Raiders-Titans I don't really want to talk too much about. There was 17-10 final. Raiders played well. Defensively, they shut down a Titans team that, aside from the running game, they don't have much else. Mariota without
Raiders
is not
pretty much one of those games. They did what they had to do.
Yeah, they just came and played it out. It was not a very good football game. But again, Marcus Mariota without Delaney Walker just seems to have no security blanket. Nobody he trusts. He panics a little bit. He gets a little edgy with the ball, looking to run a little sooner and not doing it in situations where he has the opportunity to. Just that poor kid needs to get some he needs to get some juju going with guys like Ty J. Sharp and a couple other receivers. But yeah, that game was all in all good enough to get out of there with a W. I'll take it. But the one that really stuck out at me, and when we talk about betting against the spread, the Cleveland Browns get 9.5 points to travel to Miami. They go, north to south, all the way down to South Beach. Cleveland, by all accounts, is bruised, battered, down to their third quarterback already. Just not a good football team.
Who, by the way, I know I talk a lot of shit about the Browns, and I know a lot of people from Northeast Ohio hate Joey Peeps, and that's fine. I don't care, but I will give you. I'll give you one little bone. Cody Kessler did not look half bad. I think there's some encouragement with him.
I think that they should look up and think that that's not too bad. What I was going to say is that tip your hat to Hugh Jackson and the kind of football coach he is. His team is prepared. They have been competitive. They're playing for him. A guy like Terrell Pryor, another victory lap for this guy. Before the season started, my bold prediction for the season is that Terrell Pryor will be a decent wide receiver. I think he's excelled. He's looked great, but Cleveland's not a bad football team. They're not going to win 3 games, but they're not a bad team.
Okay, I that's where you lost me. They're not going to
win 3 games. But they are not a bad football team. They're going to lose all their games this year. They're going to lose 13 games. I actually did play on it.
And that's what bad football teams do. I believe the tuna once said, "You are what your record says you are."
This is groundwork They're building. It's got to start somewhere. There's a nucleus here. There's a core. There's things that he's going to be able to work with. They've got the right coach in place. Again, they're not going to. I know if you're 3-13, you're not a good football team.
I'm 5'6", but I'm not tall.
No, you're not. You're right. Look, this is difficult to argue successfully, but this is a team that will show growth throughout the season. I really think they will. And at the end of this year, if they are 3-13, if they're really successful and they're 4-12, all of a sudden 2017, that season doesn't look too dismal for the Browns.
No, I think there's encouragement for the future. I believe in that because I think Hugh Jackson is I believe Hugh Jackson is a good head coach.
I think he is.
I really, really, really like what I'm seeing from Terrell Pryor. I mean that every road leads to that's just a stud.
He took over the game.
And I also will bring to light too. I don't think Miami's worth anything.
No, they're not worth a shit. But
I think that you want to talk about a bad football team as well. I think Miami falls in that category as well.
They do. They'll be drafted in the top 6 as well. But are you aware that Terrell Pryor, at one point in that game, led the game in receiving yards, rushing yards, and passing yards? He's an athlete. Took over the football game. Hugh Jackson knows how to use players like this.
Well, he was the best player on the field that day. That's
he
for
sure was. Now that's kind of a college thing, and that's only going to go on for so long, and that's only going to work against a Miami Dolphins team that's probably going to be real, real bad as the season goes on. Real, real bad.
Yeah, I don't find much encouragement for the Dolphins. I don't. And granted, I'm not going to sit here and feel bad about it either. As being the Jets fan I am, and I've hated the Miami Dolphins ever since I knew how to watch a football game.
So I guess what I'm getting at, though, is for some of our new listeners in the northeastern Ohio area and some of our new friends from the website Mistake on the Lake, new listeners, we're glad to have them. Don't be so bad about the Browns, man. It's not that awful. This is a team that's going to get better. They just leave everything in place, let these pieces grow.
Well, I think the one thing I will give, all the Cleveland fans, because I know plenty of them, being I live in the area, and they do know their sports, and they do know that this was not going to be anything for the Browns this year. They expected. Right. They had no expectations this year, and that's somebody, they're not. I will give them all the credit in the world. They're not like the idiots I hear when I come down to Florida, Gator Nation, and Tampa Bay Bucks Nation, where they try to make a case that a 5-11 team at best is going to be 12-4. So
yeah, and you're hearing a lot of it in Florida here about FSU and UF prior to the season starting, and that conversation's grown very, very quickly.
Yeah, I hear them getting on the air after beating Charleston Southern and teams like that. Oh, I really think we got it this year. And
national championship.
Give it another week, brother.
Well, speaking of another week went by and the Buffalo Bills managed to show up and win one for Rex and Rob. But have you heard any of the rumors circulating the Pagulas, who are the new owners of the Bills, about a very quiet backroom interview with Tom Coughlin?
Have not heard a thing about that. Do tell.
Yeah, I made it up. It's not real.
Oh, okay. Well, that explains it.
No, it's floating now. I guess a spokesman, I don't know if he's coming from the Bills or what, but had claimed that this meeting never occurred. At no point was Tom Coughlin in the building. He did not meet with Kim and Terry Pagula. But you know what? Where there's smoke, there's fire. These things just don't come out of nowhere. Now, they might, with the press maybe calling a meeting, may have actually been a 10-minute phone conversation that went, hey, you know what? If this position were to open up, Tom, how long do you think you'd be willing to coach here? Or something. Coughlin doesn't work for anybody. He can talk to whoever he wants. But I have a feeling that they're already lining up their replacement for Rex.
I think they're planning, but they're waiting. They're going to wait it out. They're going to see how things turn about, and then they're going to make their move.
They're lining it up. They're lining up potential contingencies.
But they just won a game at home against what we all thought, especially me, thought was a really good football team, but I don't know now.
Yeah, that was That was surprising. I did not see that coming. I actually liked Carson Palmer in some fantasy plays this weekend. I managed to not play him, which worked.